So solid waste is any form of solid that is thrown away, and we're going to focus first on the waste in your home, and then we'll move on to other types. I just want you to note this is not the majority of your waste, but 1/3 of the waste in your home, it comes from just packaging alone. Here's an example of the groceries you buy, all the leftover products, and this is just the food. So the volume of garbage is equivalent to what you take in for food. The waste that you produce in your home or in a small business is considered municipal waste. So residential commercial waste is municipal, and these are the items that are most discarded in a home: food, lawn clippings or any kind of yard remains, cardboard and paper, and plastic. You don't have to know a specific order, but you have to know that these are the most produced solid waste from a home. So where does this waste go? 55% of solid waste ends up in a landfill, and we're going to talk about the pros and cons of a landfill and the way it works. 33% actually gets recycled, which is nice because this used to be the third most discarded form of dealing with solid waste. Now it's actually the second. The third is incineration at 14%. 14% of our garbage gets burned. So this is what a sanitary landfill looks like. The reason they reference it now as a sanitary landfill is because they actually are doing things to protect the environment and the environment directly on the landfill or any surrounding environment from problems associated with the old form of landfills. The main addition is this layer that they start off with, which is clay and a plastic liner. So if you look here, there's a big thick layer of clay and then a plastic liner. And this is done to prevent from any unwanted chemicals to go into the soil and into our aquifer, which would then affect our drinking water. So this process is called leaching. And they've actually taken it a step further and added what's called leachate collectors. And these actually collect any water that has contaminated chemicals in it to avoid it, again, going into our aquifers. Then the garbage is dumped. It's actually compacted into what they call these cells, and you could see these little pockets here, and you see it also in this diagram. And then they cover it with topsoil and vegetation so that there's, aesthetic value to the landfill. The leachate collectors some are essential key, but they've gone a step further and they have what's called methane collectors. And these are in every modern landfill of today. And this is designed actually to collect methane, and then the methane can be used to generate electricity. So you're getting rid of the possibility of escape of a greenhouse gas, which leads to global warming. But at the same time, you're utilizing that gas to generate electricity, which I'll talk about in a minute. So some advantages to landfills, and then we'll elaborate on these, is that they're very cheap and they actually do not produce any odor. You might see or smell some odor on dumping day, but other than that, it's immediately gone. Disadvantages is no matter what they do, there's going to be still leaching, which means chemicals are going to get into our water supply. There's space is a huge limitation to landfills. We are running out of space. We don't know where we're going to put all this garbage. And there's going to be emissions of greenhouse gases and methane and any other gas that's involved in decomposition, like nitrous oxide, sulfur oxides. Now, to elaborate on this advantage, to elaborate on the disadvantages and to talk about solutions to them, because we're running out of space, they're actually so some solutions to these disadvantages. Land can later be used for a park, so this limited space actually gets utilized for something good when it's done. The garbage in itself, instead of piling it into a landfill, can actually be turned into electricity. So we're going to take that waste, we're going to burn it, we're going to convert it into a strong form of heat so we can add water, spin a turbine, and send electric current. They can also collect the gas like we talked about, and they can also just make liquid fuel out of it that would allow a substitute for transportation. So we're substituting coal and nuclear here We're substituting natural gas here, and we're substituting petroleum here, all through garbage. Another thing is the methane gas to electricity, as mentioned before. So this is the tubes that we call methane collectors, and they collect the gas, and then through a treatment, they are used to generate electricity. Here's an example of waste being used directly to be burned, which is what I mentioned here, right here. If we take the garbage and we add it to a boiler, and then we add water, and it produces steam, spins a turbine, etc. And only 12% of our waste in the US is actually burned for the production of energy in the whole United States. Some advantages to burning is that it reduces the need for trash to be piled. It saves land. We won't need it for landfills, and the fact that you can convert it to electricity is amazing. Disadvantages is that they're going to compete with recycling companies, so instead of doing the right thing that we have been doing, we might switch back to this. A disadvantage also is that it produces a lot of pollutants into the air, and one of them being carbon dioxide, the other being methane. This should say methane. It's expensive. It's not that it's super expensive, but it costs more money than it does to put garbage in a landfill. The biggest expense comes from the need to collect these pollution so that it doesn't produce excess greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So they have regulations, and there's a lot of opposition to starting these sites for, in general, just burning garbage, but also to produce electricity. People don't want those sites because that's an industrial plant in their backyard or anywhere near their home. There's two types of recycling. We've got primary and secondary loops. You could just take off this word here. The difference is in primary loop, which is a closed loop, one product is going to be recycled into the same product. In a secondary loop, the original product will be recycled into a new product.